Listening to the Be a Better Being podcast hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning in to the Be a Better Being podcast. I am Michelle Zellner, your host. And to say that I am excited about this conversation is an understatement. It has been incredibly tricky to make this happen, but it's definitely going to be quite a treat for me because I have with me today my favorite band in the whole wide world. That would be the Nadas. I actually have the lead singers of that band. That would be Jason Walsmith and Mike Butterworth. Hi, guys. How are things going today?
They're going great.
So far, so good. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having us on.
Well, it's definitely my pleasure. Anybody who knows me for even a hot minute, if they ask me, oh, what kind of music, who's your favorite band? For, I would say, the better part of 23 years, the answer has been the Nadas. And they're always like, the who? And I'm like, no, the Nadas. They're like, I've never heard of them. I know, and it's such a travesty that you haven't heard of them. So we are going to unpack a lot because you guys are entering 30 years of making music together. 30 years of anything is amazing. 30 years in business is relatively unheard of. 30 years as a band is, I'm going to say, probably fairly unique.
It's us and two others.
the Rolling
Stones and someone else.
No, there's definitely a lot of bands that have had huge mainstream success that are still around living on their success. But I don't know very many sort of independent working class bands that have stuck it out this long. So it's a testament to something. Not sure what.
Well, you know what? We're going to unpack all of that because the whole point of this podcast is to help people be better beings. And there's no way that you guys would last as a band, as a business, as a friendship, if you didn't have a lot of those foundational things to help you really live, high quality, authentic lives and probably lots of growth along the way. So I know we're going to have so much to cover. I want to just give a little history about when I first heard you. It was 1998 at the Soil Dove, back when the Soil Dove was a super cool music venue. I'm not a huge fan of the new version of it. This is back when it was in downtown Denver. I was living just outside of Boulder at the time. My girlfriends lived in Denver, so it was me coming out to the big city. She wanted to go see this band, Hello Dave, and you all opened for him for the band. His name's not even Dave. And I heard you and I was like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. Who are these people? Where are they from? How long have they been around? It was so much fun. The music, the environment, your interaction with the crowd, you guys were funny. I mean, there was just so much to that first experience for me that I, at that moment, was like, everybody needs to know about these people. And we'll go into some of those other stories in a moment, but let's talk about you. Tell us, first of all, the Nadas, just briefly, but then we're going to go back into before the Nadas were the Nadas, and we're talk about Jason and Mike.
Sure. I met Jason a couple of weeks before I started college at Iowa State my freshman year. He's a grade ahead of me. And a mutual friend said, oh, you play music? This guy plays music. You guys should get together. And so he introduced us, and Jason was in a band. And he said, yeah, talk to the guys and you can come try out if you like. So that was for the fourth guitar player position.
For the record, the band I was in didn't have a name or any songs or any gigs. We had like a rehearsal space and the idea that we would be a band. That's all we had.
That counts.
Yeah.
Like, especially in college.
Right.
And then between the time that I tried out and I got the job, thank you, and we were going to do anything else, the rest of the band, I remember them packing up and moving to the West Coast.
Yeah, I feel like people all just scattered and lost interest and did different things. And were you counting me as one of the guitar players?
Yeah.
Because at the time I did not play guitar.
Oh. Well, you had one.
I had a guitar and I knew like 3 chords, maybe. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I know now. I don't think I knew the 3 chords. Anyway, yeah, these memories are a little foggy.
It left he and I, and so we started playing just the two of us acoustic.
Nice. And how'd you come up with the name The Nadas? Because everyone's like, why the Nadas? I don't get it. Like, because I don't know. Why not?
This I pretty vividly remember. We were sitting in the basement of our first drummer's house and we were talking about band names and everybody was throwing ideas out. And Mike was throwing out these like wacky, like abstract names like Shaggy George. And I was like, why? Who's George? Why is he Shaggy? And and then I was like, we need a name that means something. So we all worked really hard to figure out a name that meant something, and then we just gave up and went with a name that meant nothing.
That's fantastic. I love it. So let's go back even a little further. So before the Nadas were the Nadas, tell us about how music played a role in your own lives and how you got to, find that something that you wanted to pursue.
I grew up in a musical family. Both my parents sang when I was a kid. Sang and sung. I have 3 siblings who all were singers and played in the school band. My mom was in a regionally touring gospel, not a quartet. It was bigger than that, a group. And so I would go out with her. And I think that's kind of my first taste of live performance. And then I got a guitar for, I feel like it was my 8th birthday. And it sat in the corner until I was 13 years old when I picked it up, and then basically never put it back down again.
So what at 13 made you pick it up?
I don't know. I suppose I'm
Tom Petty.
That, or that was about the time in my life that I would want to get some attention from the fairer sex.
Music can do that for sure. Jason, how about you?
I was always in choir, like school choir and school musicals, and then church choir, just always singing. And I did bring a guitar to college, you're right, but I didn't really know how to play. And I think that's when I kind of started. So the year before you got there, I kind of just sat in my dorm room and played guitar and learned songs. That's what got me into it.
So really self-taught. Was there any formal training for either of you along the way?
I think I've taken maybe 2 or 3 guitar lessons. It was something where I had self-taught to a certain point, and I tried 2 different teachers. They both wanted to go back and cover the fundamentals, which makes total sense, but I was way too bored to stick with. So no formal training.
Yeah, and I took piano lessons when I was a little kid, and I wish I could remember any of that. I wish I could play piano now. And I kind of have the same problem. Sometimes I think about going, like, learning piano now, but just to start from scratch is weird. And guitar, I really like learned songs that I liked. So to get to a point where I could sing them for people. And that's kind of where I got stuck for the last 30 years.
Well, I know for me personally, I'm glad you got stuck there. So you're in college, you're 18 years old, you start this band. Take us through even just college, the first, 4 years. I assume you stayed together, you continued college. Walk us through those.
Most of us continued college like through the end. Most of us.
Half of us.
Yeah. Some of us left early.
It wouldn't be the guy that's a grade ahead. So if that narrows it down. So this is 1993, and I don't think we had a formal gig other than like playing for our friends' parties. But it continued into 94, and there was something on campus that is like sort of like The Voice or American Idol now, like a talent show. There's a couple thousand people saw it. And we ended up getting 2nd place, and
almost made it.
Immediately after that, kind of took off in Ames. And in those days, you would share physical music with your friends. So people would like buy 3 CDs and send 2 to their friends. And so that we'll get into that later, I'm sure, but that helped us spread when we started touring and helped people show up in places that we've never been before.
But in the beginning we played that talent show, and then we played parties, like we played campus events. We literally played everywhere in town that had music, and anyone anytime anyone asked us to play, we'd play. So those
we
first
played
years we were
the
playing
mall,
the
yeah,
mall, nursing
retirement
homes,
homes, yeah.
golf courses. We would play like after karaoke night at a weekly karaoke night at a bar. We'd play upstairs bars, down like basement bars. We just played everywhere.
Well, that's funny that you say nursing homes, because I always refer to y'all as a bar band, because I heard you in a bar. I might now refer to you as a nursing home band.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
if not now, soon.
Right? We all come full circle at some point.
I go every week to a retirement home and sit and jam with an older gentleman.
That is amazing. We are going to talk more about that later on for sure. Talk to us about just the songwriting process and how you two gelled, or maybe there was some conflict. What, like, I mean, I can only imagine, you know, you're very different, but you're very similar, obviously. You have different sort of angles to your music, different sounds and rhythms to your music. One of the things that I just was astounded immediately was your harmonies. So talk about just the vocals themselves, writing the songs, how you guys work through maybe, you know, when one has an idea that wants to go one way, the other wants to go a different way. How do you work through those kind of things?
Yeah, our songwriting has evolved. So we used to write our songs individually and then bring it to each other and then to the group. And you know, there might be something where Jason would be like, "That line is not your best work. Let's work on
I
it."
would never.
But basically, I would write a song and then we would do that song. How many years ago did we start writing together?
I feel like it was the album transceiver, because I remember sitting at the bar in Dallas when we were working on the record and helping each other with the songs that we were behind on writing on when we kind of made that decision. That's what I think it was.
Yes.
So that was like 2001 or something.
So now we only write together. You know, every once in a while there'll be something that's like super personal, or we have one of those moments still where we wake up in the middle of the night and get out the notepad, also known as notes on our phone, and write a whole song and then go back to sleep. But mostly we sit down, and it's a discipline now too. It's easy when you first start writing songs because you have everything in the world to write about. But when you've written a few hundred, that's a few hundred fewer things to write about.
Well, that's actually one of my questions, which I'll ask now, even though it probably is better asked later. Are there any songs or things you've written that you're like, I never want to sing that again, ever?
Yeah,
I'll let you answer that.
I do have a couple songs I just don't enjoy playing, not like super proud of. I feel like they didn't age well.
They're my favorites.
And unfortunately, like two of those are kind of they're up there in crowd favorites. And so I have to play them, basically. One specifically is
You have to tell us what they are.
Yeah, so one specifically is Rockstar, which
is one of my favorite songs.
And it really is a lot of people's favorite. And
because it is, Mike, it's so funny and self-deprecating, and I think we can, like, us looking out at stars, like, we see all of that. So you obviously expressing that you all know this is what we see. I mean, why do you not like that song?
I don't know. Like, it's not too silly, or it's not like it doesn't have a good melody. There's just something about it. I can't really put my finger on it. And that song in particular was written in 5 minutes. And I know that it was written in 5 minutes because Jason and I went actually out by you to Lyons, Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
They have a folk festival, probably still every year, I suppose. But they had a songwriting camp the week before that. And we went probably 3 years or so. You think, Jason?
Yeah. Did you miss me?
I did.
So much.
And I know it's 5 minutes because in one of my clinics, the assignment was write a song in 5 minutes. And the guy just went around and said, you write a song about getting broken up with. You write a song about this. And at the time I had like bleach white hair and still had the nose ring and earrings. He said, you write a song about being a rock star. You write. And then he gave us 5 minutes and it was like 98% of the way there. Our producer, I think, said, you need a bridge, do something like this.
Well, now I know every show I go to, I am going to scream Rockstar super loudly, and you better play it for me.
You're not the only one. A lot of people scream for that song, and he makes this face like you just stepped in something.
Yeah. And sometimes I bring things to put on stage so I can actually step in it and be like, oh, sorry, I got to take care of this.
But
I can't.
But every once in a while you can get him to play it.
Yeah.
Jason, what about you? Anything that you're really kind of cringe at, or just like I talk all the time. It's all I do, right? I talk to people, I talk to groups, I talk on a podcast, I get sick of me.
Hmm.
Do y'all ever get sick of playing your own songs?
No, not really. And there might be songs that I don't like playing, but I don't remember what they are because we just don't play them anymore.
I was going to say there's a direct benefit to doing it this long is we have plenty of catalog to choose from that we do like. But I best probably if we dug in and be like,
songs,
we just shouldn't.
Songs have fallen by the wayside. There's actually a lot of songs that every once in a while someone will request something, we'll try to play it. It'll be back there in the back of our mind, so it just comes out anyway. And then we're like, oh, I forgot about that song. We should play that song some more.
And, often song lyrics are a reflection of what's going on in your own life or going on around you. And I know a lot of people are like me, kind of dissect the lyrics, try to figure out the story. Who is this about? What is it about? Some of it's kind of obvious. Some of it could be interpreted a lot of different ways. So how often is a song that you write actually about something? And how often is it just, oh, those words rhyme, or yeah, they fit the melody, or they sound really good right here?
I would say there's elements of both in every song, but you'll probably never know which elements are which. But I know that we talked about this sometimes, or like when we're trying to decide what lines to put in there, we try to leave it a little ambiguous so that you can, so that it works for you in whatever you're trying to interpret it. That's like, I think I can't give you a specific example right now, but that's like sometimes when I feel like we're most successful with something, when we're like, oh yeah, that is exactly what it means, but also it could be 10 different things for 10 different people.
Like a duality or plurality or up the chain. I would say in the beginning days, there was a lot more this line rhymes and still kind of makes sense. And now, I mean, we think about every line and every word and every syllable. Again, it's more of a discipline. And the guy that produced our last couple records, a producer's job is to come in, give ideas to the song, kind of polish them to be the best they can, like coordinate everything and break up fights. And so like we were sitting there writing and he's like, what are you trying to say? And I said, this is what I'm trying to say. He said, then say that. Don't say something that tries to sound like that. So yeah, it's very, I don't want to say calculated, but we try for every word to have impact.
Well, and sometimes simple is better, right? Just to be straightforward, simple.
Mm-hmm.
And yep. So let's talk about those fights. How many times along these nearly 30 years have you really thought of, you know what, we need to just be done, or we're not gelling, we're not jamming, we're not on the same page? Has there ever been like a moment in time where the nadas might have broken up?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, we have had plenty of fights and even more arguments. And, the older we get, the closer to the same we are on everything that comes up. But we were polar opposites for a long time. And so it really did take learning how to compromise to keep things going. And I mean, there's always been a deep respect, and I trust him more probably than anybody else on the planet. And so that part's easy, and we're boys, and so we can fight and then go out for lunch.
We both know exactly what sort of reaction the other one's going to have from whatever sort of thing. So more often than not, we just don't push the buttons
anymore. But
yeah,
when we were punk kids.
In the early days,
sure.
It was definitely sort of like an ego battle, and it was who's going to be the strongest, toughest boss of the two of us. I mean, you can see how, even saying that now, like no one's ever going to win that. So it just becomes a decision. Do you want this to move forward and be something cool, or do you want to be right?
That is such a powerful lesson for any relationship, right? Any relationship, business, personal, working together with somebody on a project. it is about, like Mike said, respect for the other person, the willingness to listen, the willingness to receive criticism. I'm sure both of you, like, Jason telling Mike that's not your best work. How, I'm assuming Mike has probably told you that at some point as well. And the ability to take that in with open mind and perspective instead of getting defensive, which certainly is, hopefully we all grow and evolve. We learn that this is information to help us be better together. At what point, or was there a time, let's talk about that ego, where the ego of the Nadas maybe grew and maybe grew a little too big and some people around you were not super pleased with that? Was there a time where that happened? And if so, did you come back down? How did you come back down?
I mean, I'll just speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for anyone else right on this, but yeah, I was a kind of out of control punk kid. But like, anytime I see a story like on the news or whatever about some rock and roller that's in trouble, I'm like, I get it. We're in our mid to late 20s. We work about 90 minutes a day. We have a professional babysitter, someone to drive us, and there's a lot of extra time to get in trouble. And there's a lot of people that are constantly just telling you how great you are. It is hard to stay grounded in that situation. There was a year that we played 230 shows out of 365
I always think of it the other way.
days.
I remember there was a year that we were home for 4 days. So even though we played that many shows, we still had to travel to and from.
And we're making a record.
There was a home we were
too.
Or a year we were home 4 days.
Yeah. And so.
And I rented a house with an indoor pool.
You swam in once.
Yeah, they never went in.
That's your reality. It's not that you lose track of reality living this unreal thing. That is your reality. And so the trick is to see that you're in this and still behave like a decent human being. And I say I was a punk. I was still always kind, and the things that my parents taught me and instilled in me growing up, they were always there. But I made some bad decisions.
As we all have, even people who are not touring in a band, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that the band lifestyle and that road lifestyle also, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But Jason, how about you? Did ego ever inflate a bit? And if you brought it back, I know you did, but how did that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm really good at being present and moving forward. So I don't remember a lot of times, but all I can say is I'm on my second marriage and I'm a much better person now than I was before. that's a big, that's a big sort of indicator, I think. Yeah. We like to say that our partnership has lasted longer than either of our marriages.
But
so
never
far.
in public or anywhere that our wives could hear it.
Yeah.
Except on this podcast.
Right. Exactly.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I can only imagine how hard it is for the people who are staying at home while you're touring, right? I mean, that's kind of a big deal. So you would have to find a partner who is very trusting and supportive, and yet you also have to do your side of that to let them be trusting and supportive. And hopefully, like you guys obviously have, there's a lot of growth that goes along the way, recognizing, what your contribution to those failed marriages were. And I'm sure there was contribution on the other side to it as well. But that's part of the beauty of the whole journey, is if we take that time to reflect, be introspective, take ownership of our own roles and acknowledge, yeah, I was kind of a punk, or yeah, I could have done this differently or better. And then you do that next time, right? You do it better next time. You evolve as life moves forward, and it usually benefits everybody. And I feel like we've all grown all together. So you're a couple years younger than me, but I feel like we're all kind of that same age. And yet in my mind, you are still that band playing at the Soiled Dove.
In my mind too. That's one of the problems. Yeah.
Right. The ages of the crowds obviously have you have such a loyal following. I want to get back to just how you did manage to be sustainable for almost 30 years. So playing in college, playing in nursing homes, playing mostly in Iowa. And then at some point you just decide to start touring and people start to know the Nadas. I'll tell you, every time I meet somebody from Iowa, my very first question, do you know the Nadas? 70% of the time, the answer is yes.
Nice.
The other 30% is because they're just way too young and they haven't been exposed yet. But then,
or maybe they don't have good taste.
well, once they meet me and I shove the Nadas down their throats, they're like, "Oh my God, these guys are amazing."
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the growth of the band and how that all happened.
Okay. Well, so we were doing it.
Settle in.
We were doing
Get
it
yourself comfortable
in college as a college pastime and for fun and as a college job. And it just sort of started to feel like we had something, and so it started in our college town and all those places we talked about, but then we're like, oh, we can replicate this in this college town, this college town, this college town. So we started doing that, all over Iowa and then the neighboring states' college towns, and we just sort of did the same thing in different markets. And
there was an exponential growth there, going back to my comment about people sharing actual music and not having an unlimited supply to choose from, right? And so we kind of radiated out from Ames, Iowa, and instead of getting harder and thinner, it kind of got easier the more we did that. And actually, growth wise, the exact show that you went to first, 98, us opening for Hello Dave, I would never remember a year or a venue or anything that specifically, except that one I do remember, because we had been playing around Colorado and we weren't getting the same traction that we were other places, even like New York and LA, Nashville and Atlanta. I can stop. You get my point. We just were not getting the traction, but that show was like a spot that from there forward, we did well in the Denver metro and Colorado area. So thank you.
I'm going to take all the credit for that one.
You should.
Absolutely. So I don't remember what year, when you started this, but you had something called the street team. And when I found out about the street team, I was like, oh, I need to be part of this. So I worked at a gym and we played KBCO, the Boulder station. Not my favorite. And every time music would come on, I'd be like, the Nadas are so much better than this. They need to be on this. People need to know about them. So the street team was something you guys put together, which literally was the word of mouth, pounding the pavement, going out and promoting the Nadas. When did that start? And did you do that in all the cities? And did that actually help? Like, did that also help for exposure?
I would say it helped tremendously. We did kind of try to do it in every city, and we just, still to this day, I think we can kind of name the people who are the catalysts in the different towns. And even before the street team and after the street team, there are those people who like to share and who like to spread the word and who people listen to, and so if those people are out spreading the word, then that just helps it grow. I think people like to discover things and people like to share things, and you put those people together and then that grows that fan base. I don't remember why or when we started it. Do you?
No,
I think it was a thing that bands did then. I don't remember when we ended it, but I sort of remember why it ended, which is just that everybody sort of aged out of being volunteers, running around trying to promote a band, and times changed. It's still that concept of people sharing is the only thing that makes a band like us grow, so thank you.
Yeah. And the street team is one thing that contributed to growth. There was a bunch of things, right? And a lot of them kind of happened close to the same time. Playboy magazine did an article, and we went on a tour with a company called Fresh Tracks that put out compilation CDs for bands you might like. And like all this stuff was happening kind of at one time, and which led to pretty quick growth. And so some people would be like, man, those were the days, on a bus or whatever. But for me, our overall growth, kind of each stage is special. And I would not trade where we're at right now for that, for anything at all. We get to choose what we want to do and what we don't want to do. If we don't want to play a show, we don't play it. Every time we play, it's fun. And it's not like that when you're playing 230 shows a year. I know personally, like, I'm grateful every time that we're up there that we get to do it. And even if I'm having an off night musically or whatever, it's still like 90 minutes to 2 hours of I can forget about whatever else is going on and hang out with my buddies and make this music. And there's like this special kind of a power when everybody comes together on stage to make one thing. It's indescribable unless you have something. Doesn't have to be music, something else like that in your life. It's hard to describe. You kind of go inside yourself, and
I think it's the equivalent of like in sports, like the zone, when you're in the zone and everything disappears and time changes and everything, and you're just like, all that stuff that's going on in the world kind of disappears for a while. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's magic. Yeah.
it is. That's called the flow state.
Mhm.
It's when you are living in alignment with your passion and you're doing it, and it's this amazing experience for everybody involved.
turns out you can explain it just like that. Way to go.
Well, I love hearing that you wouldn't trade this for what was, because I tell people that all the time, that where you are today wouldn't have been if you had not gone through the journey. And I think very often we try to get to the end result, or we try to just stay in this really amazing space without maybe appreciating that the next space will be as amazing or more amazing, just in a different way. And, when we allow ourselves to go through the process and we appreciate it in the moment, we're grateful for it, we learn from it, we embrace it, every step along the way is really quite special. And, then you get to keep on doing it and get to be picky and choosy. I'm with you, Mike, that, there are certainly times in my life and my career that things were different or better. But I'm in that same boat. Like, I get to pick who I speak with and to, right? I don't have to do everything to earn a dollar anymore. And there was certainly a time when you're self-employed, which is what you guys are, you say yes to everything because you don't know if the next gig is ever going to come.
Mm-hmm.
So you do it all because you're not sure and you want to make sure that, you have enough. The fact that you get to this place where you get to be picky and choosy and continue to live this dream and do all these things that really do impact people in so many ways. I mean, when I play your music from those days, it brings me back to all those fun memories, all that fun, like going out to Denver and getting dressed up and, what cute boy is going to dance with me and what songs are they going to play, and just the fun memories, right? That we can look at and be grateful that we had them. And a song can bring us right back to that, or a song can remind us of a really yucky time. And look at me, I got through it and I'm fine. I'm actually better for it. I mean, the universal language is music, right? So whether you're the one writing it, singing it, listening to it, it's very therapeutic in so many ways and connects people, right? When I know somebody knows the nadas, we are instantly connected because we have this shared thing. So in terms of maybe for you guys, the therapeutic, the mental health benefits of writing, singing, performing, like how has that impacted you both?
I for a very long time, writing songs was my only form of therapy, I guess, or relief or release, because I just didn't have those tough conversations. It was, if it's something uncomfortable, I would just avoid it, but I would definitely write a song about it. And it did the same thing for me as, sitting down and talking, with a therapist or with someone that I have a problem with, just having that conversation. I get to have that conversation, but by myself. And so it's the same benefit from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't think about it that way very often. But what I do know, kind of going back to that flow state, is when the rest of the world is causing me stress or pressure, I'm feeling tightness in my shoulders or I'm worried about something, the only place I find like refuge is performing, and it just goes away. And so that is my safe place. So when like people ask me if I get, this is a little off what you're asking, but when people ask if I get nervous or whatever before a show, my nerves are only before the show, like because I'm not on stage performing, I guess. I don't know, that's not really speaking to what you're asking. But another thing that you mentioned that is peripherally related is when you were talking about whether you're writing the music or performing the music or listening, it has this therapeutic thing. I think that it is such a symbiotic thing for me that it's like at its core just this energy exchange between people, whether it's one person or 500 people, that it's such an important sort of collaboration that's what I search out all the time, and that's what I think's therapeutic for me.
And I don't even think that I mean, we're talking about the performer and audience relationship, but have either of you guys ever listened to a song and then listened to a song and then listened to a song? And, if I find something that I like that makes me feel something immediately, it's not uncommon that I'll listen to it 25 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys.
I may or may not have done that with many Nada's songs.
Well, that is a huge.
It's true. I mean, I have Nadas on repeat a lot. It's true. And it's when you find something, you just want to keep it in your space. Jason, going back to what you were saying about performing, and that's kind of your zone, that is therapy, right? Things that nourish our spirit and our soul and feed us and fuel us, that is all impacting our human, the one that we're in charge of, our mental and emotional well-being. So when you find something that can do that, I know when I get to have a great conversation for a podcast, or I'm up on stage and there's 400 people and I'm giving a keynote speech, same thing. I'm not thinking about anything except that I am getting to share this experience, and it's amazing. And I get to speak my truth and tell you all kinds of things that I didn't even know I was going to tell you. And you walk off and you don't even remember the things that you say or the exchanges that happened, unless you really go back and look at it, because you're so in that moment that every moment is happening very quickly. But I think for you guys, just, and I'm going to blow your egos up, not that I need to, but I hope you really do appreciate how many people's lives you impact and you touch every minute of the day. I bet there's hundreds of people listening to a Nada song right this very moment. Not to mention when you're out touring and you're in front of the crowds, and we talk about it before, right? Oh, the Nadas are coming. What are we going to do? Oh, wasn't that a great concert? Oh, gee, that wasn't my favorite concert. Or gosh, we got there late, or whatever, right? But there's always conversation. You guys are the mix of that. Do you ever think of that? Do you ever just stop to think about how many people you have gotten into their ears and their brains?
I only think about it when I'm reminded about it by people like you. But I do feel very, I don't know, thankful that I get to do something that does have that positive impact. And there's definitely throughout the years, there's definitely been several times where I'm like, maybe there's never been a time where we're going to break up the band. There's been times where I think I should do something that has a real positive impact, that a tangible positive impact, what else should I do with my life that is not just performing for people, but then other people remind me of that. And so I've needed that reminder many times over the years that even though I'm not building something or creating something that someone buys, to make their life better, that it does have that impact. So I've had to be reminded of that over the years.
And I mean, there was a time where it seemed very empty and hollow and selfish what we were doing, for sure. But to reiterate Jason's point, literally every show that we talk to somebody, because we've been doing it so long, we get to hear a story like, my wife and I met at this concert, or I had to leave this concert to go have my third child, things like that. And it does help give it some weight, what we're doing. And so I would say now I don't have those insecurities, but there was a long period of time where I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, just wrestling with the importance of it or the purpose of it. But yeah, I'm pretty settled into it now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's a really good message for people who are younger than us to hear, right? That when we're in the midst of our growth and our processes, we're going to have those doubts. We're going to have insecurities. We're going to question things. We're going to have times where we don't feel like we're adding value or where what we're doing isn't important. And that might be true. I mean, if you really sit down and reflect and look at it, and you might realize that that's true, then you can do something to change that. But if you get a bigger picture perspective, or you have that support network in place who reminds you that what you're doing is valuable and important, that can make all the difference in the world. And I know your families have been incredibly supportive. I've seen them come to your shows in Colorado. I imagine, they're probably your biggest fans and have always encouraged you all to continue on. You all both obviously are married, kids, right? We're all getting old together. So life is very, very different from those early years. What is life like now?
Life is awesome.
What is life like now?
I have 4 children. Oldest is 21. She's going to school in Chicago, and she is pretty full-time touring musician. Her second record is done and getting released. That was a weird one for me, because I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And I was like, ugh, you're gonna miss so many of your friends' weddings. And just, yeah, it was crazy. But she has the benefit of what we have learned. She doesn't have to make those mistakes. Jason is like her number 2 fan after me. It's amazing. And then I have a 13-year-old boy who has autism, and he's the coolest dude on the planet.
And you wrote the coolest song about him, which we're going to have you on again to talk about that at some point.
Will do. Thank you. Anytime another song will come on when he and I are together, doesn't matter if I'm singing or if Jason's singing, he's like, that's Jason. I'm like, that's your dad. That's Jason. And then I have a 11-year-old daughter, Harper, who is our only girly girl in the family. She's really an amazing musician herself. And little Millie is my youngest. She's 8, and she is smarter than her parents and just a joy. And all of my kids are very funny, just hilarious.
True that.
Yeah, like adult humor. Oh, sorry,
Adult humor, like swearing, lots of swearing.
Yeah, and I'm married. Been married for almost 15 years, I think.
So you better get that right, Mike.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, she's super cool, Jamie, and she kind of lets me do whatever. And I think it's because I consider how it affects her. Like every decision I make, I consider how it affects her. So if I get home and I'm tired, I have to remember that she's been home with kids, and so I'm going to be the one that gets up and makes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
I sure could use a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I got you.
I have 2 boys, 19 and 15, from my first marriage, and I've shared custody with them since I got divorced. And the 19-year-old one is in college, and he's writing songs and playing guitar, and his guitar skills, and he plays bass, and Mike gave him a drum set, so now he's learning to play drums.
You're welcome, neighbors.
He's a really talented, creative musician, and
he's literally a genius.
He's having a lot of he's doing very cool things, and I try to help him or give him advice. He sent me this 8-minute song the other day that I couldn't tell what the chorus was, and so I was like, which you should maybe pick part of this and repeat it so that there's a memorable part. He's like, no, Dad, I'm breaking the normal song form to experiment with blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay,
sounds good.
Well, don't let me get in the way of that. Anyway, I think he's probably gonna do something important outside of music in the world, but also I think he'll have music as a creative outlet, which I think will be an amazing balance. And I think he's kind of seen the struggle of what it's like to try to make a living from purely a creative endeavor. And so he knows he doesn't want to do that, I don't think. But we'll see. You never know. He's 19, so things change every day. And then my 15-year-old one is a sophomore in high school, and he's the fastest swimmer in the state of Iowa for his age. And he's super driven, super ambitious, and he knows exactly what he's going to do as long as it relates to swimming. Other than that, I don't know what he's going to do.
But he has his own fashion
Yep.
line.
And I've been married this time for 6.5 years. And when I'm not writing songs, recording, or traveling with the Nadas, I am writing songs, recording, and traveling, performing solo shows. And in that case, my wife travels with me, and we travel with 3 dogs. She considers our 3 dogs her children.
That is fantastic. I mean, just as somebody who's been a fan for a very long time, this has been a really fun conversation to get to know you guys and the backstory of all of it a little more. What does the future of the Nadas look like?
Well, you heard it here first, but we're done with a new record. We're just trying to decide what to do with it. So in the past, we've recorded the records, and then we just sort of make them for sale and then try to go play shows and sell them to people in the form of a compact disc, which is pretty funny to even say, but that's what we do. That's what we know how to do. And that's what we've done for all these years. So this one, we're going to shop it to record labels.
But not like the ones that would put you on the radio, but little indies.
Yeah. So just to see if there's a different way to do things. And if we decide that's not a good deal, once we've worked it a little bit, then we will do what we've always done.
Mm-hmm.
Coming soon.
We are rehearsing weekly, which we've literally never done. We almost never rehearse. Like if there's something new to learn, we'll do it at soundcheck before a show. So that's kind of fun. This year is the 20th anniversary of a benefit show that we do every year called Nada Silent Night around the holidays.
Been into that a few times.
Oh, nice. Well, it's 20th anniversary. Come on.
Have you been to it in Denver or in Iowa?
In Denver.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth a road trip.
Well, it's funny because I just had my friend Tammy Koya on. She just moved to Iowa a few months ago, and you should go back and listen to her episode a couple of weeks ago because it was another connection. And I told her, Iowa has never been on my bucket list. I've been to Iowa. I was a gymnast, so we used to compete there all the time, and it's not a good state for me. I'm telling you that. However, I did tell her that now that I have another reason to come to Iowa, she's there, visit, and of course, it seems only appropriate to go see you all where it all began. So that is probably going on my 2023 vision board. So,
all right.
Yeah. Other than that, we're going to play some shows and have some fun.
Well, I love that. So we talked about the street team. There's actually like the modern version of the street team. I just interviewed the founder of this app called Needle Music, and it's a social media platform for music lovers to share the music that they love. You guys need to check it out because artists can be on there. I'm on it, and there's a lot of people sharing Nada's music on it, so y'all should check that out. I think that might be a new way to get exposure in the modern world. I like to live old school world and do things the old school way as well, but certainly that is limiting in the times that we have going on now. Anything before we...
I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the guy that I interviewed, his episode will air in a few weeks, but he's fascinating young guy. Before we officially close out the show, is there anything that you want to tell, that you want to share, any words of wisdom for maybe aspiring musicians or just life lessons in general?
Well, I would like to say again, thank you for having us on. It is an honor. I have heard most of your episodes.
Thank you.
Love it. I have a whole bunch of John's crazy socks.
That was, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's such an incredible episode. Really amazing. Everybody needs to go listen to that one if you haven't.
Okay, I will. I haven't. So.
And buy the socks. They're pretty funny. The website is hilarious.
Yeah, there's some adulting type things on those socks, which is funny. As far advice to young artists, don't give up and say yes to everything that is not dangerous.
Yeah. As much as we've said, it's nice to be at a point where we don't have to say yes to everything. I think that was super important for us early on, just to learn so much and learn so much by yourself. And all of the opportunities that we've ever had have come from that. No, none of the opportunities have come from saying no and not doing something. So
Yeah, and it might be too far off topic, but we were talking about contributing, and he said that sometimes people don't contribute, and maybe they will later. In my opinion, you have to try to not contribute and impact, but you just need to remember that everything you do, it might not make this huge swath through our universe, but it affects something and or someone, and you don't even know. Just taking an extra 12 seconds to stand and talk to the checkout person at the grocery store might be just the thing that they need that day, and just mean the world to them. So be kind, be cool,
Be cool.
better being.
Back to that part where you were saying that, we were saying that it kind of took a while for us to realize the positive impact we had on things. I think about when we were talking about it even before, I was thinking about all the bands that we knew that were incredible and that moved me and affected me emotionally that aren't around anymore. And I think a lot of it's because they didn't get this satisfaction and this sort of like understanding of the role they played in the world. I think a lot of people just sort of give up too soon. So whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I think you're probably right? We want this instant result with little to no effort. That is the world that we live in. You and I didn't grow up in that world. I know we're roughly the same age, right? You are successful because you have a passion, you have grit, you have determination, you have support, you have all the things that are necessary for someone to continue to do what they want to do or to make a difference. And I think social media plays a huge role in this, instant result. And we want to be the stars the minute we walk out the door. And that is not reality for most people, right? So I echo those sentiments. And I think, Mike, to your point, be kind and the ripple effect of everything that we do. This interview is only happening because you actually live what you just said. I went to a show at Little Bear over the summer. There was a little mix up with the publishing of the time, and we basically missed the entire show. And I had a friend, this woman, Tammy, who happened to be in town, came to the show, and she was like, well, I want to get a picture with Mike. And I don't normally do that. I'm not like, oh, groupie, let me get a picture. It's just not me. I'm a silent groupie, right, in the back. But you were so kind and welcoming and stood there while everybody else wanted your attention. And you gave me the time to ask the questions and listen to my podcast and make this interview happen and loop Jason in his very busy schedule and getting us all coordinated. And I really think it's obviously a testament to how y'all were raised and that you still have that Midwest nice, because you are in the Midwest, and Midwest nice is very different from other nice. I grew up in Wisconsin, so I understand Midwest nice. But I knew this conversation would be impactful in a lot of ways. And I know I'm going to listen to this one probably multiple times because there are lots of little nuggets along the way that we unpacked that I think if people just really digest some of it, they will recognize the life lessons and some of the really important tips in here. So thank you both for being incredibly generous with your time with me, as well as just for continuing to make the music and perform and just let us all bring you into our worlds, because I know it's good stuff for me. I can only imagine how many other people it's good stuff for. So thank you both very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. That is an official wrap on this show. Thanks all for listening. And now you get to go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.